Show, everybody. Mark Farzy here with the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. We'll have the latest at the time we do the show for Damar Hamlin. We'll start off on that somber note. Then a little bit later in the program, Geoff Mosher from Inside the Birds podcast, Inside the Birds Empire, will be joining us to talk all things Eagles. And I do want to note right now at the top of the show, that is solely an Eagles interview. We didn't want to roll the dice by taping something early like we did yesterday, Tuesday night, and have something break regarding Damar Hamlin's status. So we solely talked Eagles. Geoff sends his best and, of course, his thoughts and prayers, as all of ours are with Damar Hamlin and Damar Hamlin's family. His family did release a statement yesterday thanking the medical staff for rushing out onto the field to do all they could to put their relative, their son, in the best possible position he could be in and get him to the hospital and make sure that he could still fight for his life, which he is still doing right now. There is, I hesitate to call it good news because it's still so much is unknown, but Damar Hamlin's uncle, Dorian Glenn, did address the media, multiple media outlets yesterday, ESPN, CNN. He also spoke with CBS Buffalo's Josh Reed, who put this tweet out there saying that he just spoke with Damar Hamlin's uncle. Again, the man's name is Dorian Glenn, and Damar was originally on 100% oxygen, now is down to 50% oxygen, obviously a step in the right direction. He says the family is hanging in there. He also thanked Bills fans and Bengals fans and asked for their continued prayers. Once again, in the statement from the family, they wanted to make sure that everyone knew how much their thoughts, their prayers, all the video, all the messages that are out there on social media around the NFL, teams stepping up, players stepping up, just wishing all the best to the family and a speedy recovery and that he gets back to 100% and all of that, which is a beautiful thing. And each NFL team, as a nice tribute, made their Twitter avatars this tribute to Damar Hamlin, simply saying, pray for Damar with the number 3 in Bills colors. So the entire NFL is obviously thinking about that Bills safety right now. Dorian Glenn, the uncle, as I said, spoke to ESPN, spoke to CNN. He did shed a little bit more light on the situation. It ends with he is still fighting, which is what we're all still concerned about. Dorian Glenn, when he was addressing CNN yesterday, apparently told the reporter off camera that his nephew didn't have to be resuscitated just once while he was on the football field. Here is his uncle, Dorian Glenn, talking to CNN late last night.
They had to resuscitate him twice. They resuscitated him on the field before they brought him to the hospital, and then they resuscitated him a second time when he got to the hospital. So I just want to show my gratitude for the medical staff that were on hand, because if not for them, my nephew probably wouldn't even be here.
Throughout his media hits last night and trying to give everyone a little bit more light, shed a little bit more light on what the family is going through right now, he said he was in Pittsburgh at the time, which is Damar Hamlin's home city, and he said they were watching the game and a whole bunch of the family got in the car when they realized everything was serious, and they drove to Cincinnati. Off the top of my head, I want to say that's a 3-hour drive. That's a 4-hour drive, but they got to Cincinnati as fast as possible to be there to support the rest of the family and obviously be there for what they hope is the best case scenario. And we're all hoping for the best case scenario with Damar Hamlin. It's still one of those situations where I was, me personally, and I don't know about you guys, definitely hit me up on social media, whatever, but it just feels like everything else in sports right now is it really puts things into perspective. And I know that gets said a lot, but a situation like this, especially when if you're a big sports fan, obviously, and you're watching other things go on, it's like background noise compared to waiting for that next piece of information to come out. We are waiting for doctors to say something along the lines of there's been a big step in the right direction here, where he's no longer sedated. You're waiting for something like that to come out to give that family even more hope for their relative. And that's certainly what I'm doing. But right now, it just seems like when anything comes out, like yesterday, for instance, and I'll get into it on the show today because this is a Philly sports show. Joel Embiid wins Eastern Conference Player of the Month for the month of December. And I read that, I go, oh, that's good. And then right away, I just keep scrolling. or keep watching, flip to another channel to see if they have any information. I was watching NFL Network yesterday. I was watching ESPN yesterday. I was going on the Buffalo Bills website yesterday. I just try to get as much information as I can, because that is, to me at least, still the first thing on my mind. And one of the things the family did thank everyone else for was not just the support in terms of the thoughts and the prayers and the prayer vigil. They had prayer vigil in Buffalo, just outside the Bills Stadium yesterday, led by Jim Kelly's wife, I believe, was actually leading that prayer service, which was nice. The family obviously appreciates that. But the other thing is the toy drive that Damar Hamlin started, asking for just $2,500, has now, last I saw, made it to $5 million. From 2,500, hey, can I have 2,500, to $5 million. I heard this quote, and I forget who I heard say it, but it's stuck in my brain. And it's, when bad things happen, look for the helpers. Because one bad thing might happen, but you might have a million other people trying to help. A million other people that are trying to, that one person could be going through one thing that's bad, something that's very bad in this instance, for this case, and other people are rushing to help. And the way people have rushed to help is to go to his GoFundMe page and donate money so that he can help provide toys to people in Pittsburgh. And that's just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So keep that coming, obviously, and keep on helping out. The family certainly appreciates it. One thing I do want to say, in listening to Dorian Glenn, Damar Hamlin's uncle, a couple other doctors I listened to throughout this. Now, this is all doctors that haven't examined Hamlin, so it's still just speculation. But what they did say was, when there is cardiac arrest, it's not uncommon to be resuscitated twice. So that's at least something that is not out of the normal. So we'll continue to wait and hope and pray. And like I said yesterday, if you're not a person of faith or not a person who prays, just send the good vibes. Just send the good vibes that family's way, because I'm sure it helps to know that other people are thinking of the strife that you're going through. I'm sure that helps and is very supportive to that family. And I give credit to the uncle for actually going out and addressing that with people and feeling comfortable enough to do that, certainly. So I'll be waiting for more news as the day goes on today. I did mention earlier, Geoff Mosher is going to be joining the show from Inside the Birds podcast, Inside the Birds Empire. That is strictly an Eagles show. That is an Eagles interview. I want to say that one more time, just in case anything else breaks regarding Damar Hamlin. I mentioned earlier also Joel Embiid, player of the month for the month of December. Pretty impressive stats here for the big man. And one thing the team released that I was unaware of, if you take a look at this, leading not just the Eastern Conference, but led the NBA in the month of December, 35.4 points per game, just a 10th of a rebound away from a double-double for the month. Also had 4.2 assists. The team went 9-4 in the month of December. But how about this? The team released yesterday that Joel Embiid, this was his 5th Player of the Month award. 5th Player of the Month award. That is the most in franchise history. Prior to winning in December, Allen Iverson also had 4 Player of the Month awards. That was a tie with Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid had made that a tie. And now Joel Embiid has the most Player of the Month awards in the history of the franchise. Not too shabby. Sixers, by the way, back at it tonight against the Pacers at 7 o'clock. One of the things we will get into with Geoff Mosher coming up in just a second is this. Brian Dable, in training camp, leading up to his first preseason game as a head coach, by the way, people were asking him about starters playing and whether or not they're going to play and how much time they're going to play, if they play. And he's like, well, this is football. We play. You're going to play football? You play football. Then after last week's win over the Colts, which, by the way, I didn't even talk about it. And I know Professor Dutch wanted me to talk about this, so shout out to you, Professor Dutch. One of the things that happened in that game was, of course, Nick Foles got hurt and was taken off the field in a cart and taken to the locker room. And that was after a sack by Kayvon Thibodeau, who I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to hope that he's not a heartless bastard celebrating next to a player that was just laying there writhing in pain. But sacks Nick Foles And then after he drives him into the ground, by the way, rolls off of him, and as Nick Foles is like grabbing his side, Kayvon Thibodeau starts doing a snow angel next to Nick Foles. I would hope that Kayvon Thibodeau is not a complete heartless bastard, but that doesn't look good. That does not look good. And Nick Foles was taken away, couldn't finish the game for the Colts, was injured for the rest of that game. So Kayvon Thibodeau will be out there, of course, most likely for the Giants if Brian Daboll does decide to play the starters. But Brian Daboll has kind of taken a step back. And yesterday when he was addressing the media, he said that no matter what I do, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. If I play my starters and someone gets hurt, I'm an idiot. If I don't play my starters and we come out rusty in the first round of the playoffs, first playoff berth since 28 years, then I'm an idiot for resting them the previous week because everybody's rusty. Yes, you're exactly right. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. That's the joy of it. Congratulations on being an NFL head coach. But he's right. I don't think he plays starters. If he plays starters, it's going to be like a preseason game. It's going to be for a quarter, maybe, because he's not going to want to risk any injury. Yeah, maybe he keeps some guys sharp. Maybe he keeps some guys ready to go. So it's not a 2-week layoff, or they have a bye week and they got to come back and get back into the swing of things or anything like that. They keep momentum. They keep a little bit of that juju that they were bringing off the field from week 17. So maybe, yeah, he plays starters for a brief amount of time. But what my gut continues to tell me, and we'll get that from Geoff Mosher coming up in just a second, is that Jalen Hurts will play in this game. I'm hoping it's one of those 28-0 games at halftime, and then Gardner Minshew comes back in, gets some reps. Maybe Ian Book comes in and plays a little bit too. But I'm going to go ahead and I was pretty sure he was going to play last week. He didn't. I'm pretty sure he's playing this week. The Nick Sirianni, I think, has, and I reference it on this show a lot, as Family Guy brain, where your brain's just shooting all over the place, squirrel, like that kind of thing. And when Nick Sirianni started telling the story about his brother, about Nick Sirianni's brother reacting to Jalen Hurts' injury, because I think Nick Sirianni's brother has a little bit more information than we do, unfortunately, when it comes to the Hurts injury. But his brother's reaction was, wow, he played through that? And he played that well in the fourth quarter? He threw that pass to A.J. Brown? And he played with that injury? The fact that his brother was apparently so over-the-top impressed with Jalen Hurts' toughness led me to believe that the injury was a little bit more serious than maybe originally anticipated, or originally thought. And that's one thing that's been in the back of my brain. Wow, he's really going all in on A, how tough Jalen Hurts is, and B, how impressed his brother was with the fact that Jalen Hurts played through the injury, which might not have been the best idea, now in hindsight. But I'm going to go ahead and say 3 weeks removed from the injury, I think he'll be all right. I think he'll go out there and play. I think they'll lock up the number 1 seed because they don't want to drop down to number 5, and that's what could happen. The Giants are locked into the 6th playoff seed right now in the NFC. They're locked into it. The only reason you would play anybody is so that you don't have rust going into the playoffs. The Eagles, on the other hand, they're playing for something a little bit different. They're playing for the number 1 seed in the NFC. And hopefully that's the case. They'll lock up the NFC East. They'll lock up the NFC, the number 1 seed, the first round bye. And then we go from there. Let me tell you about my man, Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I told you earlier in the week, just real quick, earlier in the week, I told you I was going to be going to Colorado for a funeral, my wife's side of the family. At the time you're listening to this live, I'm already at the airport. I'm not even here. All right, no. But yeah, I already had to make my way to the airport, so this is already a taped beginning of the show. And Miss Guzzi, beg your apologies, beg your forgiveness. And Little Toots is coming with us. For those that missed it, my wife's uncle Jerry, who I always described as and will describe as a real life, like in-person, modern day Teddy Roosevelt, like this cattle rancher, a horseman, right? Put me on a horse, for those that remember that Colorado episode. So we'll be going out there to pay our respects to the man. So we're already on our way there. Let me tell you right now about Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row in Philadelphia for over 40 years. Steven's been in the love business in Philadelphia, helping people get engaged and fall in love. So when it comes to buying that big piece of jewelry, for that someone special in your life, diamond necklace, diamond engagement ring, diamond tennis bracelet, diamonds all the time. Trust one man, the man with the perfect price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's Steven Singer Jewelers. One place, one price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Always fast and free shipping at IHateStevenSinger.com. Let me tell you about Manscaped. Manscaped.com, the leader in below-the-waist grooming. You'll enjoy their Platinum Package 4.0, which is their best hygiene bundle yet. The Platinum Package 4.0 includes the lawnmower trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, and they all come with skin-safe technology that helps reduce the risk of nicks, so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. Go to manscaped.com right now. Get 20% off with promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy, 20% off at manscaped.com. Also, fast and free shipping. Manscaped.com with promo code Farzy. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsNation.com. How about, ladies and gentlemen, Freestone Farm CBD. FreestoneFarmCBD.com. If you're looking to take a more natural approach to everything you put in your body, Freestone Farm CBD is the way to go. Anyone looking to wind down after a workout, wind down maybe and relax after a long day, Freestone Farm CBD is for you. If you like CBD, you want to change up CBD, you want to try CBD, Freestone Farm CBD. They grow all their premium hemp flower in the Garden State with all organic inputs and IPM, so there's nothing synthetic from farm to jar. And after harvest, they carefully preserve all their plant compounds with a perfect 3-month cure. Ladies and gentlemen, also, check out Freestone Farm CBD and their insane tropical tasting Bayox that clocks into their chart-topping 24.1%, and Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So check out Freestone Farm CBD, FreestoneFarmCBD.com. I'll say it again. We'll get to Geoff Mosher right now, but again, this was taped yesterday. We did not talk about Damar Hamlin. I think for obvious reasons, in case something else broke, we didn't want to be too late to that story. So we solely talk Eagles here. A little bit of an abbreviated show, simply because I had to get to the airport. But thanks, everybody. Appreciate you. Hope you guys, I'll be trying to touch base with you guys throughout the week, try to give you some fresh content throughout the week while I'm in Colorado as well. But thanks, everybody, and continue your support, obviously, for Damar Hamlin and Damar Hamlin's family. Thanks for watching. Please enjoy this interview with Geoff Mosher of Inside the Birds. Now the Rothman Orthopedics guest line from InsideTheBirds.com, and we always refer to it as Inside the Birds Empire, Mr. Geoff.
Handsome-looking man right there. Look at that.
I was going to say stud. You are a stud of journalism. How about that?
I'll take it.
There you go. Geoff, also, you guys can check out Inside the Birds podcast. The latest episode just dropped, so make sure you guys check that out a little bit later on today. Moshe, I got to ask you this just right out of the gate. When it comes to this Eagles team, I think some people are getting a little scared. Some people are getting a little scared right now. How concerned should they be about the Eagles, A, clinching the top seed, and then when they get in the playoffs, what type of team will we see? Where are we at right now?
Yeah, be concerned. They're done. Pack it in. It's over.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining me, you bastard.
Breathe the hook.
Yeah, right. All right. Now I go to okay. Yeah.
Concern is fair because of injuries, I think. I'm not concerned that they are all of a sudden less of a team that they were when they won 13 of their first 14 games. I think that's real. I think the 53-man roster is very good, still will be. And I think you can directly attribute the last two losses. Look, the Dallas is a good team. They could have won that game. They turned the ball over 4 times. I think 4 times. Yeah, 4 times in that game. Obviously the game against New Orleans, not their best, and you wonder what it would have been like. I think it actually helped improve Jalen Hurts' candidacy for MVP because you realize the difference between even a good backup like Gardner and the type of year Jalen Hurts was having. But the two things that really give me some concern, more so for, I guess, if they get the first round bye, if they do beat the Giants, which I imagine that they'll still be able to do that, get the bye, and in the second round, is that the injury to Lane Johnson is a bad injury. That there's no way around that. And then the injury to Avonte Maddox, the toe injury, he's not on IR, but it's our understanding. It's you're hoping that maybe he'll get back for the NFC Championship game if he can make it. We've already seen and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CJ Gardner-Johnson. I'd like to, if you're a fan, you want to hear that he's going to be back in the practice window today, this week, and that maybe he'd be even able to play. But those are three really significant injuries. You can overcome one, but each week this team has a pretty big injury. But the Lane one is tough, Mark. I mean, there's really not a player of his caliber, that you just put in there or even close. And when you play playoff games, you face great pass rushers. And we've seen games where the better team lost because the other team's pass rush was just too good, right? Like think about the Patriots against the Giants twice. Patriots probably the best team, Giants better pass rush. So in that regard, there is some concern for that.
Certainly. How would you evaluate Jack Driscoll and the way he played in his first start filling in for Lane Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, he played like a backup. I don't think he's terrible. I mean, there have been some games we've seen Eagles where backup offensive tackles have come in and it's been a complete disaster. I think we all remember one in particular on a Sunday night versus the Giants many moon ago. That's not Jack Driscoll. He's technically much more sound, and he's a good, decent enough athlete. He's just not as strong, and he's clearly not a Lane Johnson caliber player. His anchor is an issue at times, and even when he's fighting, he'll get driven back into the quarterback at times, so he'll implode a pocket. That's why, Jalen Hurts has made such a great stride this year, I think, in not running at the first sign of pressure. So that'll have to, if Jack Driscoll has to play right tackle, if Lane either makes it back and can't stay in the game or just never makes it back, you'll have to hope that Jalen Hurts can kind of like be patient with his right tackle because he's going to give up some pressures.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. You went to Winston Justice there and not Halapulavati Vaitai filling in for Lane Johnson the first time during Carson Wentz's rookie year, second year in the rookie year. I think it was his rookie year in the league.
Right. Actually, and then he had to fill in for Jason Peters when Peters was lost for the year. And so,
that's right.
and if you remember, his first snap was a disaster. Ryan Kerrigan beat him around edge and just completely killed Carson Wentz on that play, and everybody thought it was disaster. But Vaitai got better as the season went and wound up being the starting left tackle for the Super Bowl. So, yeah, that's amazing. A good example of a guy who struggles, but you were able to overcome it because you had great 53 around him, and he wound up becoming a pretty decent lineman anyway. And again, Driscoll's pretty decent. He's not a disaster, but when you get to the playoffs, you just got to make sure that you scheme it if things aren't going so great. You're helping them out.
Yeah, I remember Ryan Kerrigan ripping Wentz off the Wentz jersey during that first snap of the game. Now, who could forget it? Now, when it comes to CD Deuce, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Chauncey Johnson, Gardner-Johnson, when it comes to him, are you expecting him to be activated this week? Do you think he will play in the season finale? What's your expectation there?
The word that we got was he was making progress. There was a chance that he would be activated into the 21-day practice window this week. So we'll see if that happens. If they do it, it would probably happen Wednesday today, right? So we'll see if that's the case. Now, they did that 2 weeks ago with Dallas Goedert. They activated him into the 21-day window, but he didn't play against the Bears in that first game where he was eligible to play. So we will see. I mean, so I'm just saying it's a good sign that if he's activated into the practice window, but it doesn't definitely mean he'll play. I think the important thing is getting him ready for the playoffs because clearly Jonathan Gannon does things a little bit differently when he has Reed Blankenship out there as far as protecting his defensive backs, not being as aggressive as we saw him be earlier in the year, playing a lot of zone until he's forced to play a little bit more man. I think he'd be more what the fans would hope for if he had CJ Gardner-Johnson in there.
Mm-hmm. Understood. The other thing is obviously it's with Jalen Hurts. And I have this theory, and I don't think it's that wild, that Jalen Hurts was healthy enough to play. If it was a playoff game, he would have played last week against the New Orleans Saints. Do you give it a percentage? Can you give it a percentage for me? How close do you think he was? And how much of this was we can beat the Saints with Gardner Minshew? We don't really need Jalen Hurts for this one. How would you weigh that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. The team clearly felt pretty early last week that he was not going to be healthy enough to play. That's why Minshew got most of the reps. They obviously had Jalen Hurts out there. They had him throwing a football a little bit. You always have to test not just that day's activity, but how the response is to that day's activity the next day? Is he sore? Is he able to do a lot? But it's my understanding he didn't do a whole lot of practice, even though he was out there and they were preparing Minshew to play. Now, your question is sort of twofold, though. If they were playing a playoff game, was he healthy enough to play? Well, he might have been healthy enough to play, but that's a kind of a low bar in some cases. People will play with a lot of injuries. The question is, how effective would he have been if he got hit a few times and landed on the shoulder? And, it's not just a shoulder. He's got a little bit of the collarbone issue going there. So I don't think it was just precaution. I think that they were also concerned about the level of play you're going to get and then what would happen if he did take some hits. And you know what? I think that they'll still be concerned this week and they'll have to answer that question this week. But they've got, they have to win this game. And we'll see. I mean, it seems like it's trending toward Jalen Hurts playing, but I'm not going to sit here and give him 100%. Oh yeah, he's definitely playing. Let's see on Thursday if he's out on practice, because Wednesday's just a walkthrough day. Let's see if he's taking most of the reps or what the vibe is coming out from the team.
Hey man, you've been covering this team longer than I have. When it comes to the walkthrough, when did the walkthrough become like the estimated? The estimated practice. We're estimating he would not have practice. When did that start? Because I feel like that's very recent.
Well, I feel like every year there's some kind of new wrinkle to how they practice or go about things that, that make me realize how old I really am, Mark. I mean, I'm like the guy who talks about, oh my God, they used to actually go to Lehigh and practice in the 2 hours in the morning and then practice 2 hours more in the afternoon. And then guys who were older than me when I first got on the beat were like, yeah, well, there used to be 7 preseason games and they used to have 3-a-day practices and there weren't off days. So, it gets lighter and lighter every year. It gets different every year. Now, the fascinating thing is this whole sports science program the Eagles are sure look good for the first 8-9 weeks of the season as far as soft tissue injuries are going, but over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, not so much. But in fairness, being healthy really did help them start off 13-1 compared to some of the other teams they were facing.
Certainly. So I'm not asking you for a percentage, but right now, as we tape this on Tuesday night, are you somewhat confident Jalen Hurts will play in this game? Or do you think Gardner Minshew is going to get another start?
Well, I mean, I feel more confident in his ability to start, that he'll start this week than I did last week. I didn't think at all he was going to start last week. But again, I would not put that at like 100% slam the door. He's definitely starting.
Understood. Again, it's early. We're taping this in the week, and we're asking that question now just because I know it's on everybody's mind. And then the last thing I want to ask you about as far as who's going to play and who's not going to play, what are the Giants doing here? What is Brian Dable doing? Is he actually going to start his starters? What is there to be gained for the New York Giants other than being spoiler to the Philadelphia Eagles?
It's always funny to listen to a guy like Dable like 5 minutes after a game and then the next day after, because he's a very like fired up and intense guy. And he was immediately after the game, he was asked, "Well, what are you going to do?" And he's like, "Oh, well, we're competitors. We come to play." Talking the big man tough talk, and then literally in his Monday press conference, all of a sudden it became, well, it's a process we talk about with our GM and we have to do what's best for the team. So it literally went from like, I got this adrenaline pumping through my veins and we're going to go kill the Eagles on Sunday to, well, I think we'll probably wind up not playing our starter. I assumed based on his Monday talk, and we'll see as the week develops, that he's probably not, if he plays his starters, it's probably not going to be for all 4 quarters. But remember, Mark, the Giants are pretty beat up. Like, they're playing backups already installed, especially a wide receiver, offensive line in the secondary. So, I mean, it's not like there's going to be a huge differential here. It's just whether guys like Barkley and Jones wind up being out there.
Gotcha. Finally, when you do make it to the playoffs, and I am going to go ahead and predict the Eagles to win, a very early prediction for this weekend, but of course I'm going to pick the Birds. Are they, one of the things that's come up here is that one and done thing that's been surrounding them. Ryan Leaf even mentioned it of all people on Good Morning Football last week. It's been circulating now. They could be a one and done team here. Could that really happen? I know you got to wait to see who they play, but I mean, we still have to see a better version than what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, no?
I would think so. I mean, it depends on who your divisional round matchup is. I mean, let's say they get the 1 seed. The Bucks are locked into the 4th seed, right? And and if the Eagles get the 1 seed, that locks the Cowboys, I think, into the 5th. So you get a Cowboys-Bucks 4-5 game. So if the Cowboys win, which, I feel like now the Cowboys would beat the Bucks. You never know. But if the Cowboys win, that's a lower seed winning. That means the Cowboys would be the most likely the team to play the Eagles in the divisional round. And the Cowboys are probably feeling good about that since they just beat the Eagles. And again, it comes down to Lane Johnson. He's going to try to play through a groin that's already torn. It's not just pain tolerance. It's also limited in your movement. Like, you just can't do certain things when you have a torn tendon, and then you run the risk of being able to tear it further, tear it off the pelvis, and make it an even worse surgery. And, not that the Eagles are a one-man team by any stretch of the means, but you know how good Lane Johnson is and how important it is to hold down the pass rushers and the ability to have 5 outlets on any play as opposed to 4, because you might need to keep a tight end in the block. So, one injury can kill you. And if Avonte Maddox back, that's another big one. So, I think that the playing field has leveled a little bit. The Eagles at one point seemed far ahead of anybody in the NFC, and the injuries have leveled the playing field, but I'd have a hard time seeing one and done, but I got to see who the matchup is first. You just never know.
That's all I needed to hear. You'd have a hard time seeing it. You're not sitting there expecting it like some of these Debbie Downers that are out there, Geoff.
Not expecting it.
By the way, you must be a happy man. Penn State, nice little bowl win there. Nice little victory. Nice little job there. You got to be feeling good about yourself.
Yeah, it was good. I was joking with Jason Avant the other day. Jason, of course, being a Michigan guy who was doing sideline radio for that game, as he's done all year for Michigan. I told him the other night, we were texting, I said, I'm watching the only good Big Ten team that's going to win a bowl game right now. So I got a good one in on him.
There you go.
I lost the bet earlier in the year when Penn State lost to Michigan. So on our pregame show, I had to sing Hail to the Victors at the end of the show. And that's a moment in my life that, it's on the internet, so it's forever, but I wish it would just go away.
Oh, that is the first I'm hearing of that, and now I'm going to go find that. Thank you for telling me. Geoff, as always, man, what do you and Adam Kaplan have coming up on this episode of Inside the Birds?
Yeah, it's our middle of the week film breakdown episode. So if you want to know why Gardner Minshew struggled, if you want to know about, like you asked Jack Driscoll, what happened there, some good stuff on the wide receivers, though, when they did catch the ball. And if you really want to know what happened with the defense on the first drive compared to the rest of this, and this is all through sources we talk to, league personnel who watch the tape and give you a real thorough breakdown on what happened, then you listen to Inside the Birds.
There you go. Inside the Birds is part of Inside the Birds empire, InsideTheBirds.com. Geoff Mosher, great catching up with you as always, my friend. Thanks so much.
You got it, Mark. Have a good one.
You as well. Geoff Mosher joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line.